Hey, are you a business owner, entrepreneur, or professional? If so, we want you to apply to be a featured guest on our show. My name is Adam Torres, and I host the Mission Matters series of podcasts. I've recorded over 3,000 episodes, and we are just getting started. How do you know if you'd be a good guest to be on the show? Well, only one way to find out, and that's to apply, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We want guests that have a story to tell, guests with a brand, a product, or a service that can benefit my audience of listeners. If this sounds like you, go to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. I'd love to talk to you and get to know more about your story. Again, head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at Ask Adam Torres to keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Lynne Robertson on the line, and she is owner and CEO over at Fame, and she's also founder over at Lead Like a Mother. Lynne, welcome to the show.
Yeah, good morning, Adam. Pleasure to be here.
So I'm excited to get into today's topic. So we're going to talk about how you really parlayed the experience that you had in retail and that Fame had and really expanded that to broader offerings. We'll go through some of your projects, like work that you did with St. Jude, work that you did with Polaris. We got a lot to cover today, so I'm excited to be here with you. But just to get us kicked off, Lynne, I'd like to go a little bit further into your background. So how did you really get started on this career and on this adventure?
Yep, great. So I actually stumbled into this industry. I wanted to be Adam Torres. I wanted to be like a broadcast personality. So I was a journalism major, and I came into the market when it was pretty tight. And so I had an apartment with rent to pay. So I took a receptionist job at an advertising agency. And my career grew from there. I fell in love with the business and the creativity and the storytelling aspect of it. So some of my journalistic tendencies were able to bloom there as well. So I worked in agencies, big and small. I landed at Fame in early 2000s and became president and CEO in 2004, and then ran the business for about 13 years. And then I purchased the agency Fame from the holding company, Omnicom, in 2015. And so then we became a fully independent, woman-owned enterprise.
Wow, what an amazing story. And I like how you said you started out as, wanting to be a journalist in this. I started out wanting to be a financial advisor. So I was in that
Funny how those paths never kind of come to fruition.
Yeah, I was in that business for almost 14 years. I didn't know that I'd be in front of a camera. That's so funny. And now the funny part about that is that I want to be like you. So when we started our agency and started producing podcasts and helping people with things like this, I'm like, man, I have to be like Lynne here. So
likewise. So we'll do like a job swap, Adam, and then see how that goes.
Hey, I'm in. Let's go. I want to go a little bit further into what that transition looked like, because I think that's an extremely unique story. So just to paint the picture, you mentioned it, but I want to go a little bit deeper. So, here you are, you're working at this agency, and you started out, I would argue, from, let's say, entry level, right? Receptionist, and you worked your way up all the way to the top. Now you're running the agency. I mean, first off, that's an amazing feat in itself, but then you decide to purchase the business and to acquire it. I mean, tell us a little bit more about how this happened.
Yeah. It really, it's one of those things where the transition occurs almost because you're forced to change, right? So I had a great time managing the agency for all those years. And then the landscape changed in terms of how holding companies worked with agencies, and it became less desirable. I mean, I had a lot of, if not all of the responsibility, but the empowerment part of it was starting to erode. So it got to the point where I needed to make a pretty substantial change in my career trajectory I wanted it to stay at Fame, but not in the same capacity. So I went to my friends in New York and I talked to them about an exit plan or succession plan or an acquisition plan. So we sort of discussed that, got into negotiation for the acquisition on my part. That took about a year and a half. Holding companies really aren't in the business of divestment; they're in the business of acquisition. So and so then we got the deal done, and then I became fully responsible for everything.
So there's some individuals that are watching this right now that maybe have that dream. They want to be business owners. They want to, and whether it's they're starting their own business from scratch or they're purchasing an agency or a business of any type. Obviously now many years into business, and you had, in my opinion, you had the vantage point and the luxury of you were already running the business. So you were intimately involved with the day-to-day by leading the organization. So you had this apprenticeship period that allowed you to, once you were under your own, under your name, you had a certain amount of certainty that the business would continue operationally. But not everybody has that luxury. So some of those people out there maybe that are listening, that are thinking about going alone or starting their own business, I mean, what kind of advice would you give them?
Yep, that's a great question. Well, first of all, surround yourself with the best experts you can. So from the very beginning, I reached out to a friend of mine who's a very accomplished M&A attorney out of Dallas to help me in the negotiation process. I quickly added on, a CPA, another corporate attorney. Insofar as you can afford to do that, you should, because there are so many things that you think, to your point, that I thought I knew about running the business all those years. There were so many things I did not know once it became mine. So I think the first lesson I learned was the vast difference between margin management and cash flow management. So I'd always had the ballast of the holding company, so I really never had to worry about making payroll or a line of credit at a bank. And so those were all, ponds that I had never swum in before. Fortunately, again, I had great advisors. I had a very compassionate banker. And so all of those people on my team really helped me navigate through that. But I will tell you, it was bumpy at first, for sure.
So Lynne, I want to take you back a little bit. So you just purchased the company, and at this time, before you purchased from Omnicom, your bread and butter, or the company's fame, was known for retail. I mean, that's what you did day in and day out, and you chose to take that retail experience and really parlay it and make it into something bigger, going further into even experiential. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what led to that?
Yeah, that's where we grew up with blue chip retailers like Target and Best Buy, and did a lot of tremendous work over the years. But what happened, as you know, is the retail landscape changed exponentially with the onset of online retail. So we had to sort of translate our skills, not only from brick and mortar to digital, but into other categories, because the work that we were doing was drying up. So, and we needed to create new revenue streams. We needed to, kind of export our expertise to different categories in order to grow. So we spent some time right after the acquisition really defining what made us different, how retail mattered in other categories. And it really drilled down to that notion of what's next. I mean, that's really our core competency, is defining that. And it's because we grew up in retail, right? Because in retail, if it's not working, we just clearance it out and we put something new on the shelf. It's in constant evolution to new product launches, new promotions, new activations. So we were always on that sort of fast treadmill of what's next. So we defined that as kind of our core creative philosophy, and then said, well, what else about that is interesting to other people? What else makes us unique? And there is a design centricity to our creative approach. Again, going back to our retail roots, that's important because everything talks. And so there is a a mandate to really pay attention to those finite details. And so there's a design centricity to that's unique to us. And I think important, especially as we're translating brands into different channels. We have to understand what those frequencies are. We have to understand how the tone and the look and feel of that brand speaks in those channels. So that notion of that really focused attention to the design made us different. And then the other thing about retail is that you don't have a lot of time to sit in a room and ponder things. I mean, you have to go. So we have always had a SWAT team approach to our creativity because we have to solve the problem real time. And so we have to have everyone in the room that knows those different facets of the solution that we're trying to gain. And so almost like a SWAT team comes in, that's how we always approached our clients' business problems and creative solutions. And the notion of agility, because retail deadlines are onerous, right? And so there's a need for speed in terms of deliverables. So I think all three of those things really wrapped up in a nice package that we could take out to different business categories, because all clients, all businesses need that kind of, high, frequent, attuned into the detail creative approach. They need us to be nimble and agile in order to meet their deadlines, and they need us to be thinking forward for them. So it's not just about today, but it's about what their business are going to be doing a year or 10 years from now.
I think that's a very important distinction, because in your roots, having come from that retail side. And so when I think about one of the things that makes Fame unique, by having that, and not saying that an agency that doesn't have that and that only has ever worked in online, but the fact that you have worked in retail, a lot of agencies are maybe trying to figure that part out and how to convert or help, the traditional brick and mortar convert to online and do things like that, which is a huge trend, obviously, and that's not going away. But if you don't have the roots in that retail, you don't always know, some of the challenges or problems or even the mentalities of the brick and mortar owners, because it is different than online, and they have different preferences and they have a different relationship with their already established audiences that historically have been walking in their stores. And so building and maintaining that relationship is quite unique, and which I think Fame is uniquely positioned to do. Talk to us a little bit more about just some of those, and that's what sticks out to me. But talk to me a little bit more about, what sticks out to you and what differentiates and makes Fame unique in the market.
Yeah. Well, again, back to our retail roots, I think all those things I mentioned make us unique. I think there is an aspect to our culture too, and this is one of those things that you try to define for your clients or try to explain in the pitching process, but they don't really know it until they see it and feel it. So again, because of the way we work and the way we have to work, we have a really tight team culturally, super creative, highly inventive, and I dare say wickedly funny people that work together. Really is our secret sauce. I mean, I not to sound trite, everyone says that, but I do believe it's true. And I've managed and a lot of teams over time. This I will tell you is the creme de la creme of any group that I've ever had the honor to work with. So that allowed us to not only work well together, but to bring on people like-minded, because we're very focused on retaining that culture. So one of our core values is be a baller. And we took that as our HR filter, because everyone here knows what it means. And typically everyone outside of our organization knows what it means and how you show up and how you work with one another and with your clients.
So Lynn, I have to tell you, my feelings are a little hurt. Be a baller. I haven't heard this baller verbiage the whole time. We've had many conversations. Am I not a baller? What is it, Lynn? I don't fit in your culture and organization?
Hey, I can't spill all my candy in the lobby, Adam. I have to have some surprises for you.
I want to be a baller too.
You already are a baller. Come on.
Well, I don't know, but I love that term. I love the culture, and I think that's a great transition, because I do want to. We'll circle back, because I want to go further into fame, and we'll talk about some of the projects specifically. But I want to circle and spend a little bit more time on the culture side of things. So I know during this time, of running the agency, so you became a mother. So let's go back a bit, right? Like, what was that like? As a mother, and then now as founder. So I want to weave all this in together as founder over at Lead Like a Mother. Tell us a little bit more about how all of that came about, because I think that's also a very unique thing that ties into your culture and what the magic you have going on over there as ballers.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Well, this is one of those things I always say, sometimes having no plan is a plan. So I have 3 children. They're all 7 years apart. So I've been a parent for a really long time. And in fact, when I first started at Fame, I had just had my 3rd child. So I realized, so that was a lot to balance and juggle at the time. But what I realized almost simultaneously to acquiring the agency is I had this burning desire to put something out in the market that reflected that experience I'd had as a mother. And I use that word intentionally. The dads always get their backs up when I talk about this, but let's be honest, nobody says the dads are the most important job in the world. They always say the mothers are, and nobody blames the dads if things don't go well. It's always, what's wrong with that mother? Where was she? So there's this notion of, motherhood being the most important job. Why in the world wouldn't we want to try and learn lessons from them? So it started with that germ of an idea. And I started to think about all the reciprocity of the skills I was using at home and translated to the office and vice versa. And I came upon this notion that I was using a lot of the same talking points, the same behaviors in both places. And I said, there's something here and it's valuable. So almost simultaneously to acquiring the business, I launched Lead Like a Mother. And it's kind of in its infancy right now. I'm doing some speaking around it. I work with different organizations across the country and kind of helping people understand what the mission is, what leaders can gain from embracing the tenets of leading like a mother, like empathy, prioritization, ninja-like juggling skills, cultural architects, all the things that mothers are and leaders are too. So I kind of had both of those balls in the air, still do juggling a little bit, but for me, it was like there is millions of working mothers out there that have no idea how valuable they are as leaders because of that. And they're constantly sort of feeling that they're falling short when in fact they should be feeling heroic, because what they're doing both in the office and at home is baller-like, right?
So going forward, what are your plans overall for the organization, and like, is it something that you intend on growing and bringing a lot of people together for? Is it something that's going to be like give us a feel for your blueprint? Because I know I know your style over at Fame, and I'm just trying to get a feel. And the reason why I'm asking this question, by the way, is I know there will be a lot of people watching this that are going to be like, Lead Like a Mother, like this is one of those things that I believe have the opportunity to become a movement. So I want to get those people excited so that you start getting these emails and these phone calls like, hey, how do I get involved? Tell us more about it.
That's great. So thank you for that. Yeah, I've always sort of thought about it as a movement more than a platform. Mm-hmm. So we just relaunched the website. So I'm hoping by the time we have this art conversation out in the atmosphere, everything will be down and locked. But we just rebranded it. The website is up. In fact, it's promoting right now my most recent virtual event in which I spoke with three mother leaders over at Self-Esteem Brands, Anytime Fitness, Base Camp, Wax in the City, all of those residing under that corporate umbrella. And we had a very lively conversation. So there's that aspect to it. I'm having another event. I'll announce it soon in December. I'm going to be speaking with Emily Callahan, who's the CMO at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And so that's the part of it that I have a lot of heart for in terms of showcasing and promoting some of these great leaders. The other part is educating, again, leaders on what the tenets of those mother skills are that they can translate into their own organizations to really build healthy, resilient, inventive teams. And then third, I have to say this, I've got a book in the works, but if I didn't have a full-time job, it would probably be done by now. So it's kind of, it's bubbling up. I do have a vision for it also to build sort of motherhood dens in markets where women can congregate and sort of empower one another, engage with one another, and build their own, sort of groups of support and networking. So that's really the grandiose vision of it. I'm just building the base right now.
Lynne, it's like I don't even know you. You also have a book coming out too, and that you're working on. So first I didn't know about the baller thing. Now I don't know about the book thing. Now I just have FOMO. I'm just scared I'm missing out over here.
The
what's
man
going
that's
on.
written 100 books, right?
I was just gonna say I'm the book guy, and and I don't know that you have a book that you're working on.
Like I said, it's still on my laptop in dreadful form right now. So don't get jealous. It's not anywhere.
Well, when you do have that, when you're ready for this launch and you go further along the line, we're definitely going to have you back on, because I absolutely want to help you promote that. I love promoting authors and helping them, especially with messages like yours. No, it's and maybe that'll get me to baller status, right?
Again, you're beyond baller. Yeah.
So I want to spend some time on some of the projects. So Lynne, we've covered a lot. So we've gone from, some of the cultural things you've done, of course, at Lead Like a Mother. Then we're going further back to you purchasing fame from Omnicom. I want to go further into some of the projects that you've worked on specifically. So I think a good one to start at would be you just mentioned that you will have a talk with Emily Callahan, so CMO over at St. Jude. So maybe let's just start with St. Jude and some of the work you've done for them.
Yeah, this is the work that I think we use our powers for good on. The hospital, as everyone knows, was founded in the early 60s by the entertainer Danny Thomas. His children have taken on that legacy now, most notably his daughter Marlo Thomas has become the spokesperson for St. Jude. So we started working on that in 2003. And we helped build the Thanks and Giving campaign, which is Marlo and her brother Tony Thomas's brainchild for how to intertwine the notion of feeling thankful at that time of year and sort of giving to people that maybe weren't so fortunate with children that were ill. So we built that kind of from the base, and then over time worked across their organization in helping them build strategic partnerships with different retailers, helping them understand what co-promoting programs might look like across that spectrum, and again have been so honored to do that work, and so feel so appreciative of the fact that the work has materialized into a huge donor source for the hospital, and continue to work with our friends there. And it's just, I get a little emotional talking about it, because it's really the work that we do for good.
I think it's absolutely amazing when you can connect with an organization like that and make a difference, and then just see what happens on the other side of things. And nothing against other types of organizations. I mean, we sell books. I'm happy to sell books. I know books can change and move people, but we're not necessarily like saving lives directly.
Yeah.
So like when you can use your superpowers over at Fame and the ballers that all of you are to really affect change and to further a mission for an organization like St. Jude, I mean, it's absolutely amazing to me.
Yeah, thanks.
So let's go. I want to pick out one other healthcare or healthcare related example of your work. So let's talk a little bit more of some of the work that you've done with Cricket Health.
Yeah, this is a new client of ours. And again, just so honored to be working with such smart, mission-focused people. Cricket Health is in the business of disrupting chronic kidney care disease. And they have a very tech-forward product that allows patients to manage that condition in a way that doesn't interrupt to such a great degree their daily lives. So we met with them in, I believe, early March, and they had a very aggressive timetable, again, going back to our agility in relaunching their brand and their website as they were on the precipice of onboarding some new provider partners. And they've just erupted now in the marketplace and have taken on, I think now a half a dozen new provider partners. So that's one where, again, it feels good to be working on something that improves people's lives rather than just, selling products, right? So if I had a wish list, all of our clients, we could do that kind of work for. So
amazing. And so you mentioned this client earlier in the interview, and I host a fitness podcast also. So I have a different background for that one, and I'm wearing a basketball jersey. No, I'm just joking.
I love it.
But I want to get into Anytime Fitness. I do host a fitness podcast, by the way, but I don't quite wear that. But I do want to get into Anytime Fitness because you started working with this brand at a pretty, crucial point when they're doing in the middle of it, and you helped them do that big rebrand. So let's talk a little bit more about that and what that entailed.
Yeah, so they brought us in earlier this year, or actually late last fall, to do kind of a repositioning because they were expanding their offerings to their customer base beyond just a 24-hour gym, and we needed to figure out how to communicate that. That was true to their original core. And so we worked on the strategic side of that and helping them articulate how to evolve, and then helped a little bit with some tweaking on the original brand design, and then really focused our next efforts on how that channeled into the gym experience. So that's really where we spent the last few months with them, is figuring out how now, because they're expanded their product offering, is what does that mean for the people that are coming into the gym? What does difference in the space make? What kinds of things they need to offer in terms of amenities, et cetera. So that's been really fun. And again, nothing wrong with helping people improve their lives by being more healthy and physically fit.
What does it look like? Because I mean, that's a bit, well, the brands that we've talked about are all large brands, but if we think about, what a rebrand looks like and means for like a gym clientele, because those are very set models, so very metric driven on certain things. And what does that look like when you're going through that creatively, in terms of that process? And obviously only so much we can get. I know it's hundreds and hundreds of hours of work, only so much we can get done on an interview, but I just want to let us peek into the creative process of what ballers do on a day-to-day.
Well, I think the first thing you do is you never take your eye off the revenue ball, Adam, and you have to really have healthy respect for their metrics, the client's metrics. And that's all about, membership numbers and people visiting the gym and perhaps taking on classes or personal trainer sessions. So everything we design has to be respectful to ensuring that stays or moves up, right? Hopefully moves up. You want to make sure that all of those revenue streams are embraced, enhanced. So our design work can't get in the way of that, right? So we can't just make it look better. It has to function better. It has to make people want to come back even more. So that's really where we start. It's never about necessarily a purely aesthetic overlay. It's really about how do we make this business model work even better through design.
And so the last case study I like to look at, if you will, is, and this one I remember just from growing up, like using their vehicles on like Polaris. When I heard that you work with them, I'm like, oh man, that's cool. Like if I couldn't have been I couldn't have been a baller on your team for that one, because I admittedly would have said, Lynn, I need to go test the product. I mean, I need to feel it. I need to get out there on the snowmobile. I need to go. You would have been mad at me on this one. What's Adam doing? Where's his work? He's out testing the product. So tell us a little bit more about your work with Polaris.
Yeah, so again, it's a fairly new engagement for us, and we're helping them sort of reimagine what the dealer's showroom looks like. I can't reveal too much because it's still in process, but their whole positioning is about being outside, right, and enjoying the outside, and their vehicles play such a big part in not only recreation, but how people work outside too. A lot of their business is, agricultural. And so we had to help them figure out how does all that, play together in a showroom, sometimes that are 500 square feet up to 12,000 square feet, right? So how do you figure out what the core of it is going to look and sound and feel like? How are you going to make it scalable across that spectrum? And then how are you going to make it palatable for dealers to bring on board? Because the fact of the matter is, even like with Anytime Fitness, that's a franchise model. Polaris is a dealer model. These are small businesses, right? So you have to really understand that when they take on these kind of changes, that has material impact on their ROI, right? And so, so we're working with them now on figuring out how all of those pieces fit together.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought up that distinction, because I completely missed it. That you're working with, because obviously you've worked with big organizations, but this is that's a whole different part of things. Working with a franchise model or dealer model, obviously there's some nuances there, right? But on the legal side, but in terms of the side of an agency or working with them as a client, you're right. Like immediately it changes things, and also you're dealing with different implementation. It's not just a big corporate entity that can just push a button and supposedly everything is done. It's like you still need to kind of have buy-in from the people that own either the dealerships or there has to be a reason behind it. You can't just say, not saying you do this, but you can't just say, let's hang up this pretty sign right here. Why?
They're going to make it pretty. Yeah.
Why am I going to change my showroom to hang up that sign right there?
Right.
I love it. No, that's a great distinction. So Lynn, I mean, we've covered a lot here. And what I want to go into is if, there's a lot of people watching this, and some of them may have interest in fame or in connecting with you and your team of ballers, which they should, by the way, because I want to be a baller too one day. But that being said, what is typically a right type of fit? Like as a client, because I want to make sure that the right types of organizations and or individuals follow up with you after this.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. We did spend some time after the acquisition defining that for ourselves, because we wanted to make sure we attracted the right kinds of clients for the work that we did, but also for kind of culturally who we were. And we really drilled it down to clients that were curious like we were, and that also had courage to try inventive things. So it had less to do with, what their revenue base was, what their category was, and more about their character.
And I know we've talked a bit about different niches that you like working in. Give us a little bit of more on that one. So I know we covered some healthcare, obviously retail. We know you dominate there. Give us some more on that, just so people have an idea of the breadth of what you've done.
Yep. So obviously we talked about the fitness category. We've worked across tech companies in cable and technology companies like HPE. We've worked in weight loss, restaurants, like I say, telecom. I mean, the list is so long, it's hard for me to drill it down. And that I don't mean to sound like indecisive or like we do everything. We don't do everything. But if people go to our website, they'll see a wide spectrum of the categories that we've worked in. So again, like I say, it has less to do with what it is than how we can help.
I love it. I love it. So Lynne, if somebody is watching this and they do want to connect, final question, two-part question. So first off, if somebody wants to learn more about Lead Like a Mother, how do they do that? And second off, if somebody wants to connect to learn more about Fame, how do they do that?
Yeah, so they can reach me for Lead Like a Mother through the website. Right now, there's a landing page, but if they want to email me directly, it's hello@leadlikeamother.com or lrobertson@leadlikeamother.com. And then as for Fame, it's thisisfame.com.
Fantastic. Well, Lynne, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background and work and really this transitional journey you had from being, from purchasing your business to growing it to, expanding over and above retail and just adding to it. I mean, it's a wonderful success story and I'm happy to bring it to my audience. So thank you again for coming on the show. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget, and especially if you're a first-time viewer, definitely hit that subscribe button. Leave us some comments on the video if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this on the podcast, hit that subscribe button. Also, we want you to be a return listener. And Lynne, thanks again for coming on the show. It's been awesome.
Adam, absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.